Yes, in this video, I am talking about a bike that I think is just as good, if not just as much fun, as an MT07. And no, it is not the bike behind me, although you could potentially find one of these for around the same price as the bike that I'm reviewing today, which is really impressive. But the bike I'm talking about today is still a 600cc motorcycle built from Honda, is almost 20 years old, and despite its age, still a lot of fun to ride. So can you guess what bike it was? It sounds pretty good, and when you look at the specs on paper too, it doesn't sound that bad either. Roughly 100 horsepower for the bike, 430, 440 pounds, somewhere around there for weight, and revs above 10,000 RPM, 600cc super sport motor in a naked chassis. I mean, come on, it doesn't get much better than that. So I think it's time to go out for a test ride, have some fun with it, and let's see how it compares to a modern bike. Does it still hold up? Is it still a lot of fun? Because despite it being really popular all around the world, it really wasn't that popular here in the United States.
All right, so did you guys guess right? Did you guess what bike it is? It's this one. It's the Honda Hornet. It's a quick, peppy little bike. This thing sings. And they look pretty stellar. It's not a bad looking bike. Even for today's standard, this is still a sexy looking naked street fighter bike that just has such a great sound and feel to it. I mean, it's a 600cc super sport motor that was pulled from the Honda CB600F3s way back in the day. So it has that super sport engine performance, high revving, just really nice power delivery. You know, it's not a ton of power for today's standards for 600cc super sports, but it's still just as good as all the naked and street fighter bikes that they're making right now in this category. And when you're just cruising, this bike is just relaxing. I'm upright, I'm comfortable. I'm not, you know, no pain on my back, obviously. It feels light. Honestly, it probably has a lot to do with that slip-on that has on here. It's a Two Brothers slip-on, and that gets rid of the stock dual system, so you're getting rid of quite a bit of weight, and then also you're getting rid of weight that's up top. So that's why it feels really good. And the suspension on this is not too terrible. Hit some bumps here. Yeah, feels good. Not a terrible suspension at all. And it's just a relaxing, calming bike to ride if you want it to be. Throw it in, what are we in, sixth gear here. Just chug along. I can just roll on the throttle, no stuttering. It's tuned really well. Feels good. I mean, it's just a blast to ride. As I mentioned, this has the CBR600F3 Super Sport motor. That was a bike that was built in the 90s and did really well in racing because obviously it's a Honda. It handled extremely well, it was nimble, and put down really good power delivery that is controllable for a super sport. And it was responsive. It's a very responsive motor. And for being a carbureted bike, it just doesn't run like a carbureted bike. We actually had an I think it was an F3 way back in the day, and it was one of the Smokin' Joe's color schemes, super rare color scheme for that bike. And it just also shocked me when I rode that. First time riding something like an older super sport like that in a long time, and that thing ripped. So having this motor in this kind of bike setup and like chassis design is exactly what a lot of people like. It was a good call. However, it just wasn't really a good call for the time. So this came out in 2004, I'm pretty sure 2004, 2006, with carburetors. And it wasn't the best option. It wasn't the best idea. However, it also was one of the most expensive bikes kind of in this category. So that's why it was really kind of a poor performer and poor seller for Honda, because even though it performs really well, there's nothing wrong with it, and quite frankly I actually like it better than some of the other competitors. The other competitors would be the Suzuki SV650 and the Yamaha FZ6R, both really lacking in power compared to this bike. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have a fuel injected bike than a carbureted bike in the 2000s, when fuel injection was finally making its way to motorcycles, and especially to super sports. You had the ZX6R that launched in 03. Well, it didn't launch in 03, but that was the first gen of the 636, an amazing motorcycle, and that had fuel injection. And then all the other manufacturers started to catch up with that too. I think the Gixxer 600 had fuel injection. That was the first year for a Gixxer 600 to have fuel injection. The F4i was out at the same time this bike was out. And then obviously 05 to 06, the CBR600RR is a really good gen. That also had fuel injection. So you're releasing a carbureted bike that just kind of was behind the times, if you will, but yet ahead of its time at the same time, because it's a naked super sport, which not too many manufacturers were making true naked super sports back then. So let's see what this thing can really do. How does it really open up? I mean, it felt pretty good in those couple little pulls that I did, but you know, that was nothing spectacular. Like, you can tell this was a race bred machine back in the day. Back in the day too, I mean like the 90s. I would love to get some 90s bikes on this channel. That would be fun. Do some throwbacks. Brakes are not very good. Ooh. A little sloppy through transitions. I mean, this is a soft suspension. Brakes are a little on the weak side. A little on the weak side. watch my speeds. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, it floats like a boat a little bit. It's not the best suspension setup ever, but some of the modern bikes that this was competing with also floated like boats. So, you know, also some of the modern bikes that are coming out now, the FZ07 or MT07 now, SV650, Ninja 650, those, you know, they're not the tautest, most like the best suspension setup ever. So this is still pretty comparable to a lot of the modern bikes. This is a great bike that I would totally commute on every day, as long as, like, carbureted bikes are not bad. If you're thinking about purchasing one of these used and you found one, they can be gems. Like, this one to me is a gem. It feels great, it runs pretty damn good. The tune could be maybe a little bit better. We are working with stock jets and we have an aftermarket air filter and a slip-on, so it's not the best tune ever, but it still feels really good. Where are we going? Still feels really good. Alright, I mentioned pulls earlier, and let's see how this thing accelerates, and I didn't get a chance. Oh, getting some chirpies out of the Dodge. Homeboy want to play? I'm just kidding. I'm not playing. Favorite bump. Oh, my balls. I mean, you know, it's not like crazy speeds or power, but it's still pretty great. It still puts a smile on your face. What more could you want? If you found one of these for $3,000 and it ran as good as this, you'd be so happy. So happy. This thing's amazing. These are such great bikes. Highly recommend as a used bike. 100% you should get one of these.
All right, so that was a lot of fun, and I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that are going to be saying stuff like, no way it's better than an MT07, you shouldn't buy this bike, it was a garbage idea. I'll agree with you. If you don't know the difference between a carbureted bike and a fuel injection bike, you know, it may not be the best idea for you to purchase one. But the point of the video is to show you that you can buy something that can be pretty cheap and have a ton of fun with it. You don't have to go out and spend $8,000 or $10,000 on an MT07 or an R7 or a Ninja 650 to just have a lot of fun. That was the point of the video. I had a blast riding the bike, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And I do kind of like it better than the MT07. Despite its age and because it's carbureted, I just like the revving above 10,000 RPMs, the engine characteristics. I like that it's geared much better for highway use than the MT07. So it's actually a really enjoyable bike still. So even though it wasn't very popular back in the day when they first made it almost 20 years ago, if you find one today used, it's a pretty good bargain. It's a lot of fun. So definitely give us a subscribe, give us a like, let us know what you think about this video, and check out the links in the description below where you can find helmets, jackets, exhaust system, all kinds of cool stuff for your motorcycle, tires, everything down there. We will greatly appreciate that, and we'll see you guys in the next video.